Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for week 5 of our Destination Cork summer series entitled Culinary Cork with Ireland's Blue Book. And you can probably guess by the title that today we get to talk about one of my all-time favourite subjects, food, and about how vibrant the farm to fork, locally sourced, sustainable and gourmet dining scene is here in Cork City and County. Now, it's not like us Corkonians to boast about all the wonderful things here in Cork, but on this topic, we are definitely very proud and we are very vocal. We're home to the gourmet capital of Ireland, Kinsale, right here on our doorstep. And as Ireland's second largest county and with a beautifully expansive coastline also, we are also unquestionably a culinary hotspot because we have so much fresh fish, meat, cheese, veg, ingredients, all of the freshest produce here to enhance a really fantastic dining experience. In addition as well to 3 Michelin star restaurants, Cork is also home to some of the famous founding members of Ireland's Blue Book. This luxury collection of privately owned country houses, historic castles, restaurants, amongst which we are delighted to be members for Hayfield Manor and Killarney Royal, is synonymous with the best of the best when it comes to dining in Ireland. And we're absolutely thrilled to have Ireland's Blue Book CEO, Michelle Maguire, with us today, in addition to founding members and our fabulous neighbours, Ballymaloe House, welcome to GM Peter Loughnane, and Longville House, welcome to proprietor Aisling O'Callaghan. So, firstly to you, Michelle, as you have the umbrella view over all of us lovely members. I have had the honour of attending some brilliant promotional events with you and your team here at home and abroad, and I've had the pleasure of witnessing firsthand the high regard in which Ireland's Blue Book is recognised both nationally and internationally. Established back in 1974 with 11 founding members, today there are 53 members and 3 rental properties within the association. And each of these, as you know, Shelley, and I know from listening to the brilliant stories, each of them has really fascinating stories, characters and histories, buildings, and I would really love to chat about each and every one of them in great detail. But today our focus is on food. And Michelle, can you tell us how important the culinary aspect is to existing members, to the loyal Ireland's Blue Book guests, and to the brand overall, please?
I think, Karen, food is at the heart of everything we do. If we talk about the founding members of the Blue Book, Ballymaloe and Longville House in Cork, that fantastic country house cooking, it's evolved over the years, but it's still the same farm to fork philosophy. You have Blue Book properties that are working with locally sourced producers to bring that fantastic fresh food to the table. We have 6 Michelin star chefs in the collection. We're very lucky to have them, a number of them in Dublin, but also we have country house cooking throughout the island of Ireland. But I think it's at its best when it comes to Cork, when we talk about our properties in Cork. You're going to meet Longville House and Ballymaloe, but we have a Hearns in Youghal, and they're famous for their fresh seafood, where they go out, they pick the food up every day, which is absolutely wonderful. We've Blair's Cove in Cork as well. Again, they have a beautiful restaurant there. It's so romantic. If anyone wants to have a little bit of Cork romance, I really would recommend Blair's Cove. And of course, not forgetting, you mentioned already, Dunone House, our private rental in Cork, and Lissard Estate. So although we have members all over the island of Ireland, I think our Cork members are definitely leading the way with that food philosophy, as they have since the 1970s. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, I think we're truly blessed here in Cork, and those properties that you mentioned are just incredible. And hopefully I'll get around to them now this summer. I've dined in a Hearns before, and I've been around to the others you mentioned as well. But maybe Blair's now for a romantic getaway at the end of the summer might be on the agenda. So thank you. And next up to Ballymaloe. So my recent research on Ballymaloe, actually, I did not know this, but the castle, there's a castle on the grounds, and the house itself dates back to 1440, which is like 500 odd years before the Allens came to town. So it's been around a long time. And of course, it's very well known in Ireland now, thanks largely to the Allen family, and with the fondly remembered matriarch Myrtle Allen at the helm, one of the founding members of Ireland's Blue Book back in 1974. And she was really ahead of her time in terms of, I suppose, opening her own home, a historic home, to the public with the restaurant first in 1964. And I suppose the key founding philosophy of the Ireland's Blue Book was to allow these beautiful historic homes continue to operate as guest houses and welcome people to really experience good food and Irish hospitality, which is incredible. So we have a lot to be thankful to Myrtle for, as we all know here in Cork. But in recent years, Ballymaloe has become increasingly famous, of course, for family members, celebrity chefs, Dorina and Rachel, a cookery school that is attended to by people from all over the world, a delicious relish, which goes all over the world. And if we ever travel to my brother in Toronto, that's the first thing he wants to see coming out of the bag. And also in recent years, the Literary Festival, which is an amazing connection for Ballymaloe and for Cork. But always the overriding focus is on food. Peter, can you share with us how this culinary passion is maintained amongst so many different entities and how Ballymaloe will continue to honour Myrtle's legacy into the future, please?
Thank you, Karen, and delighted to be with you. It's really about ingredients. And I think we're very humble, I suppose, about the ingredients that we get in Ballymaloe, and really lucky that we have such fantastic ingredients on our doorstep. Not just what we prepare ourselves. We've only a small garden. We've a reasonable sized greenhouse, so we could have something for a couple of weeks. One of the big regrets of the last few months is the fact that we've missed certain seasons, where asparagus season, for instance, didn't happen in Ballymaloe in 2020, and you consider the beautiful asparagus. So the integrity of our ingredients is critical. We're very lucky that we have day boats in Ballycotton, so we can pop over at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and as they're coming in, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and pick up a bit of fish. You might only get 4 portions of Dover sole or John Dory or something, but it's fresh, it's caught that day, it's on the menu that evening. And when you're having that conversation with your customer, it's just such a powerful position to be in. It's such a beautiful kind of connection between the land as such, and like that whole farm to fork ethos is just everything to us. We're very lucky that we have the cookery school as well. So in Ballymaloe Cookery School, where Dorina has based Ballymaloe Cookery School, that was the original kind of 400-acre organic farm over there. So a lot of our ingredients comes from, they have about an acre under glass houses. So we'll have potatoes now already, we'll have tomatoes starting now even, so we're very lucky to be able to harness the things like their butter, their cream, their yogurt, as well from their 8 Jersey cows, as well as all those gorgeous lovely ingredients that are picked today. Like if you think of a tomato that's never been in a fridge, that might sound like a bit of a funny thing to kind of focus on, but think about it, and to know that a tomato has never been in the fridge, it was picked today, it's on your plate this evening, that's just so special, and we're so lucky. It's always about the ingredients.
Yeah, sometimes, as we know, like the simplest ingredients are the best, particularly if they're homegrown. Like if you were to, I'm just here now envisaging coupling those nice fresh tomatoes with the maybe Toonsbridge mozzarella here,
yes.
road, and
wow,
there you have your beautiful caprese / corkese salad ready to go. Absolutely delicious. Thank you, Peter. It is just such a lovely spot. I know I've been out there, and it's just on a beautiful grounds. And the door of Ballymaloe, I suppose, is iconic because everybody knows it from the Blue Book brand so well. And it's just such a lovely spot to go to. I think it's beautiful, and I love the story of it. And actually, the more I researched it recently, the more I fell in love with the story, as I always
funny,
do.
just I don't want to keep you now, but funnily enough, when you mentioned the castle on the grounds, the Norman Keep, or we call it the castle if we're talking in an American kind of context, but the keep as such, which connects to the house, has not been navigable. But over the last few months, we've done a bit of work on the roof, and we're now able to access the keep. So you get able to climb the stairs, you have to enter through the bar, up the little winding staircase. It's like a little Italian kind of castle, really tight to climb up to the top, but then to see all over East Cork from the top with maybe a martini in your hand will be a lot.
Come in, I'm coming down.
Blue Book customers, so very, very excited about that.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I'm glad actually to hear now that is a big job of work to restore something like that, but it's really good. It will really enhance the experience, and of course,
absolutely,
the Americans will absolutely love that. Imagine staying on the grounds of your own castle. Fabulous. And actually, where else they would love, over to Longville House. Another founding member of Ireland's Blue Book, and another one that I found fascinating actually as I delved further into the story of this property. It is in North Cork, on the banks of the beautiful Blackwater River. It's a beautiful boutique Georgian style with 16 individually designed bedrooms, and it grows, like Ballymaloe, a huge amount of its own produce in its walled gardens. The estate is owned once more by the O'Callaghan family, and the history of it going out of the family's hands by a Cromwell briefly and back in again to the family's hands many generations later is just absolutely fantastic. It dates back as far as the 1600s. And like many of our fellow Ireland's Blue Book properties, it has just such an incredible history to share. But the grounds itself, like Ballymaloe, are stunning. Of course, the river in the background and the gardens, and also 32 acres of cider apple orchards. And I suppose, Aisling, yourself and your husband William have married the growing your own produce and all of that with a lot of more modern thing. Well, not modern, I suppose distilling is not modern, but you know, you've enhanced the product and people are really interested in going on site there now just to do the distillery tour and to see how you create your famous, very refreshing, I must say, Longville cider. Mm-hmm. So I know that William, your husband, is also the chef there, and in keeping with Ireland's Blue Book philosophy, he's hugely passionate about serving sustainable, locally sourced produce, and it doesn't get much more local than your back garden. Can you share with us how you've evolved these offerings at Longville over the years to incorporate these orchard tours and other activities such as the foraging and the fishing on site, please?
Well, I suppose what we did was we just worked with what we had. You know, we just looked around us. It was there for us, no more than Ballymaloe. It's not rocket science. It was growing outside in the garden. And it started off with Jane and Michael, their philosophy really, which we inherited. And Michael was a farmer. He had a big house and he had a plot of land. And he was a farmer, really. That was in his blood. Jane came on the scene, my mother-in-law, and she, as she said herself, high heels and red lipstick. She was not cut out for the farming life. It was like Green Acres here. But anyway, she managed to pull it together, and she realised very quickly that farming wouldn't necessarily sustain a house the size of Longville, not long term. So she knew very quickly she was going to have to get out there and do something about, you know, developing another business. So they started off as a little B&B, and over time added extra bedrooms capacity. They were then finding that they were getting a lot of business from France, from the UK, the fishing kind of brigade. So these poor guys would go down on the river, they'd be starved by the time they come back up. So they'd want a high tea. That was what was available at the time. Do you remember Chicken Cumberland and all these mad things, or Chicken Maryland, I think they were called back in the day. But she wanted to bring it to another level. So she went off and invested in courses in the UK, and she learned how to cook. As she came home and set them into action, opened up the restaurant. A bit like, you know, Myrtle. They were very much around the same time frame it all started to kick off. And that's what William grew into. He grew up always with good food. He lived on site in the house. They had a garden outside. You got out there and you grew whatever, you know, was in season. And that's what they did. Michael, his father, was a very pioneering type of spirit. He used to make an Irish wine. He was the first man to grow grapes outdoors in Ireland and actually successfully make a wine out of it. Now, it didn't last very long. Well, it did. He tried it for a long time. But, you know, it really wasn't, you know, he was better at making, let's say, apple brandy. He decided, well, look, let's look at our climate. Grapes don't do very well here. So he went off and he ploughed up the land, did a bit of research, and then planted 32 acres of apples. Two types of apples. We have their cider apples, Michelin and Dabinet. And they've been planted over 25 years. So the idea was to make an apple brandy. He had this idea in his head, I'm going to make a brandy, but you first of all have to make a cider before you get a brandy. So you distill the cider into brandy, but he wasn't actually bottling the cider at the time. So unfortunately, back in 2010, 10 years ago, he died. And we were left in March with 32 acres of apples about to go into bloom. And what were we going to do with this orchard? We had to do something. So we were very lucky we had the right advice with us at the right timing. And we just decided there and then, look, we'll have to bottle it. We'll have to bottle cider. We got some very good advice at the time. William went about it. It was his project 2010. And by, say, 2 to 3 years later, we had it in a bottle labelled, and it was being sold nationwide, called Longville House Cider. It's 5% or 5.5% ABV. That's the strength of it. A few years later, William took on the he took on he made another cider, which is called Longville More, M-O father R, the Irish, as in bigger, greater. It's a little stronger, it's 8% ABV. So the reason there's the strength in that one is because he actually ages the cider in apple casks, brandy casks. We also make a brandy, I forgot to say that. So some of the casks, when they're finished with the brandy, we retain them, we store the fermented apple juice there, and what we do then is we just make the Longville More cider. It's a lovely strong cider. It's not as innocent as it looks, and it pairs very well with food. And some years ago, we went off to the United States to see, could we market this brand or this cider? Is there a market for it over there? And we do. We have a distributor over there. It's sold over there as O'Callaghan's Irish Cider. But one thing we learned about it when we were there, they educated us a little bit on how to serve cider in a restaurant. And they always maintained you should put it into a wine glass, a nice stem glass, rather than a big pint glass or, another kind of nothing too robust. You want a nice delicate glass. And that's what we do. And it's very much part, like at the end of the day, cider is an apple wine. So why wouldn't it be treated like a wine? And that's what we do. So it's a very successful for us. It's got the name out there. It's brought in a new life to the business, a new energy to the business that possibly, wasn't always there before. And it's just put us on the map with a new audience that wouldn't have really known about Longville prior to that, or wouldn't have bothered to visit us prior to that, So we're thankful.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lovely thing to recommend to people as well, because sometimes we do have groups staying with us, and they often want recommendations on what they can do locally in Cork City and County. We'll often recommend to go up to yourselves to do the distillery tour, or do fishing, or do some outdoor activity, because obviously we're a city centre property. We don't have the grounds, but we have lots of lovely neighbours who do have the grounds. So, and it's lovely to have those things here in Cork to be able to recommend them. So thank you for that. And I have a cider drinker, a very passionate cider drinker here in this house. And I hope he's going to take it well when I serve it to him in a wine glass this weekend. Because no more pine glasses after that.
He'll think you have airs. He'll think you've airs and graces.
Oh, Shelley, it's 5-star service. 5-star service.
Oh.
Yeah, the wine glasses will be out now for our cider this weekend.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, we'll keep talking about all things food, because I love it so much. I could literally talk all day about both Ireland's Bluebird properties and food, but I know we don't have too much time today. So what we will do though is ask you a few of your top personal favourites. So Shelley, back to you. You are the only non-resident of Cork here on our call. We do feel sorry for you, but look.
Very aware of it. I tried to talk just about the Cork properties in the Blue Book. I did not go outside of Munster.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Although we do love flying the flag for all of them. And quite honestly, like it is an amazing collection. So if you're out there domestically and you have vouchers, please make your way around. You'll get a warm welcome everywhere around Ireland in Bluebird properties, and you will have the best of food. And if you're coming over from abroad, this is truly a collection to consider. You can make your way all the way around Ireland. There's a beautiful map. If you go on the Blue Book website, there's a beautiful map that will detail where you can find each and every property all the way around. It is absolutely fantastic. You will not go wrong doing a whole tour around Ireland. And that's my dream someday when I have the time, just scoot around the country and stay in all Ireland's Bluebird properties. But before I get to do that, I need to find out your personal favourites. So Shelley, your top 3 favourite things when you are lucky enough to come to Cork City and County.
Well, the last time I came to Cork, I came with my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and we had an amazing time. We went actually to the Opera House. And we had a lovely evening there, and we stayed in Hayfield Manor. So we did our pre-theatre. We had a great night out in Cork, and it was lovely. It was lovely to get out of Dublin and to go away. So I think sometimes when you visit Cork, it might be that you base it around an event when you're going into the city. Another time I met friends in the Crawford Gallery, and that was a lovely relaxing afternoon, and we dined there as well, which was fabulous. But when it comes to Cork County, oh my God, there's so much to do. I love gardening, so I could just travel all around Cork visiting gardens for I would say a whole week, and I've been lucky enough to go to Garnish Ireland Blarney, a number of the fabulous Cork gardens, and traveling around the Beara Peninsula. Oh, that was my first trip away with my husband, our first. And it was very romantic.
It
Yeah.
is.
So that was a lovely drive, and that's something I would highly recommend. I think if people are going to Cork, it is town and country. So get out there and explore the countryside. The Literary Festival in Ballymaloe, I've gone with friends to that for a number of years, and that was wonderful. But there's always, Peter will tell you, there's loads of things on in the grain store in Ballymaloe as well the whole time. Now, not right now at the moment, we know that there's more, but that will be there for us in 2021. So maybe basing your trip to Cork around an event and really getting to know it. And Longville is fabulous as well, being the mushroom hunts in October. I mean, the foraging. I mean, we've told media about that all around the world. So I think Cork has so much to do and to see that really you're spoiled for a reason to visit Cork. There's so many reasons to visit, both the countryside and the city. No, I can't wait to go back. Nor can my mother-in-law. Okay. Maybe it's to do with a certain cocktail that she had in Hayfield Manor as well.
Well, you know, again, we don't like to boast. We're so modest in Cork, but I will say that the bar staff in the Manor Bar do know how to make a good cocktail. Yeah. And we would love to welcome her back. Our doors will be open very soon, and we cannot wait to have people coming. And I really like that combination of city and county. Obviously we're city, but we love sharing with our neighbours around the county, and to experience Cork you have to do both. Really.
And we see our American guests do that, don't they? They do a couple of nights in the city, they do a couple of nights in the country. So maybe this is the year that we should do that ourselves for Cork, where we spend some time in the city, then get out into the beautiful Cork countryside. Maybe learn to fish properly at Longville sometime.
We can learn to cook properly in Ballymaloe. There's so much to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which brings me back to you, Peter. Your top 3 favourite dishes that you produce at Ballymaloe. Now, I know this will not be easy because
it's funny. We've been doing a lot of work on our menu over the last few months, and Dervla, our head chef, has been working really hard to try and. There's a perception maybe that you want to kind of maintain a legacy, which is very important to us. And Mrs. Allen's legacy as the founder of Ballymaloe, the first female Michelin-starred chef in Ireland, it's a really critical kind of position that has to be respected. But by the same token, we want to ensure that we're moving into the 21st century as well. But when Dervla sat down to do the menu, she really just kind of kept coming back to some of the great dishes that Ballymaloe is known for. And I think if you can, we're all striving for perfection in all of the Blue Book properties. But I think at the same time, we're very much about do what you do well and don't try and be somebody else. And that's kind of where we've come back to with the menu. And in a lot of cases, I'm just looking like, I mentioned seasonality, but the excitement I get when I walk into the restaurant at kind of August time, and kind of I'm able to say tonight for the first time, it's like tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be, but it is very much tonight for the first time we have free salmon from the Blackwater. Like I'm kind of maybe jumping in on Longville thing, but we've and everyone's got somebody, inverted commas, who'll knock on the back door and will deliver a bit of salmon to you, or in our case chanterelle mushrooms is another one. But when you serve a beautiful piece of poached salmon, excuse me, there's a bit of noise there in the background, we're having windows cleaned, fire alarms checked, the whole lot for opening. Or I apologize. But
the show must go on in hotels. That's
Blackwater salmon, just a really beautiful piece of Blackwater salmon in season. And even though we have, that excites me more than pretty much anything in Ballymaloe, with just a lovely, simple piece of hollandaise sauce. Really simple, but just a few ingredients on the plate, executed perfectly. Another one would be our duck. So we have Nora Ahern, who's been supplying duck to Ballymaloe since the 60s. And during the last few months of the lockdown period, we as staff members who were around Ballymaloe were buying Nora's ducks and getting great value, because she wanted to keep the duck population kind of going, and they get to a certain age when you need to kind of use them as such. So the duck breast with some just a lovely kind of cabbage with a little bit of apple going through it is just gorgeous. And again, we cook the whole bird, so we're not cooking a duck breast, you know, so you're getting a bit of the leg and you're using the whole bird. It's really fantastic. And for me, beef. I think in Ireland, maybe some people, foreign people or people who come in to visit Ireland, don't really realize that for a lot of people, your beef really is the kind of, I suppose, the barometer for everything you do in a food environment to Irish people. And if you can do a great piece of beef, in our case, we're lucky, we have Kilmacahill locally, we have a couple of farmers. I hope you can hear me all right, because there is a bit of noise there.
Yeah.
But the farmers who produce our beef are within a mile of Ballymaloe. Again, we buy the whole beast from Frank Murphy, our butcher, and we use it all. But like a lovely piece of sirloin, cooked rare with some horseradish cream, again from the horseradish on the grounds, and the cream from Ballymaloe Cookery School, and just made that day. It's just really simple. I've actually, like the rest of us, we've all started gardening this year and started growing our own. And I've got very lofty ambitions. I went straight in with the Jerusalem artichokes, because that's what works best with beef in Ballymaloe. So you just cook some lovely Jerusalem artichokes and red onions. So right now I've got my potatoes and I've got my other bits that everyone else has, and then I've got these gorgeous Jerusalem artichoke plants. So I'm really looking forward to introducing my 3 kids to Jerusalem artichokes, because, you know, start as you mean to go on.
Oh my God. Well, I can honestly say that is the first mention of an Irish gardener growing Jerusalem artichokes. But
especially
my dad,
one as inexperienced as myself.
I must go back to my dad and my uncle now. They have a little plot, and I'll have to put in the order for the Jerusalem artichokes to add to their collection with the new potatoes. That sounds delicious. All of those dishes sound delicious. Yeah. They just sound absolutely amazing. Really, really good, and lovely that it's all locally sourced, of course, and then complemented by stuff grown on site there at Ballymaloe. Just delicious. And best of luck to Dervla and yourselves as we reopen. I know there'll be a queue at the door waiting to dine with you again. It just sounds delicious, and I'm not surprised you're kind of, as you say, stick to what you do best, but of course with your own flair. And I think that you know, can only be successful because everybody knows how amazing it is already at Ballymaloe. So Aisling, last but not least, back to you. I'm going to ask you now, because when I picture Longville and your beautiful grounds and the orchard and all the foraging and everything, I just think it's the ideal place to go for a picnic lunch. And what 3 Cork foods would you recommend people take on a picnic lunch out on the grounds?
Okay, so we do quite a few picnics actually here, which is it's a great opportunity to talk about it. But I suppose most of the time it's our own product, I have to admit, because we have this massive walled kitchen garden, 3 acres. It's quite large by most standards. And that's always on the go. There's something coming out of that garden all year round. So what we would do, I suppose, you put a picnic box together. We obviously have to put in our cider. So where would we be going without the cider? So there's always a little tipple there. And if they don't want that, if they don't like alcohol, we have some lovely farm pressed apple juice, our own apple juice. So it's very nice. So that's something just to drink. And then after that, we do have our own what they're not a herd, what would you call them? They're pigs. We have our own, pigs in the woods, basically, free range pigs, saddlebacks. And needless to say, without getting into too much, we have our own pork pies, we make our own sausage meat, our own hams, all of that. So you normally throw together, some sort of picnic incorporating that, because it comes from the farm, comes from the kitchen. We processed it ourselves, served up with things like pickled beets, pickled radishes out of the garden. Those vegetables would have been pickled in our own cider vinegar, because we also make our own cider vinegar here as well. And we'd round that up then with some Temple Gal cheese. That's from Hegarty's. I'm sure all know Hegarty's cheese in Whitechurch. So they have a relatively new cheese called Temple Gal, and it's in the style of Comté. If you're familiar with Comté, that French cheese from the Alps, it's delicious. So that's really popular with our guests, and you put that on a little bit of brown bread that we would make from here, cider bread. And we also have got big into this porridge bread, because so many people are looking for gluten-free, and so we're using a lot of gluten-free porridge and oatmeal. And it just goes down really, really well. And you'd round it off with something like a flourless orange or chocolate cake or some tea brack. So it's very simple, but people absolutely love it. See, we've loads of little venues around the house here. You can go out into the wall garden. It's quite sizable. So we're developing, as I speak, some lawns there for the guests, with the guests in mind, Go up there, there's nothing up there but the birds and the gardener. Anthony's up there and Shirley, and they're keeping an eye on the garden. But apart from that, all you have up there are the birds. And then if you don't want to do that, you can go down to the river. We have a table down by the river, a table and little stool thing, and it's a perma feature there. And we just load up, take them down ourselves in the Jeep and drop them off. And they're sitting in the shadow of Drummondine Castle, a very historic property which would be very much part of the O'Callaghan ancestry. So you've got the castle across the river, you've got the river Blackwater flowing in front of you, and you can just take a boat down, or you can do a little bit of fishing and enjoy your picnic on the riverbank. It's really, really lovely, very genuinely gorgeous experience. And that's pretty much like what we would do here. It's very simple. There's no rocket science. Again, it's just whatever we have, whatever's in the garden, we'll pull it together and just arrange it nicely for people and make it easy for them. Drop them off if they want to lift, pick them up, give them a few stools or chairs, deck chairs, some rugs, and they're off, you know. So that's what we would do here. That's what we do here.
I love it. And I think that will be very popular. I mean, always has been, but will be this summer in particular, as people look for kind of the great outdoors and spending time just reconnecting, I think, with Ireland. A lot of our own locals coming back, and you know, when the international market can come as well, I think, you know, that is the charm of Ireland, sitting by the river, eating locally grown food. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. It
doesn't really. I mean,
no,
it doesn't get much better than that. Yeah,
it is just
keep it very authentic, very real. And like the whole thing, like just sitting in nature, like we love it. I mean, the place is alive with bird song at the moment. You can be very lucky actually down there by the castle, because it's right across the river. But up high, there's always these I'm not sure what they're called. They're birds of prey nesting away there, and it's just fascinating to see them. They're obviously flying around, keeping an eye on you, but it's just lovely. Kingfishers have been
a unique security system.
Drones with wings, you know. But but anyway, it's lovely. It's very pleasant. It's really very pleasant, and then a little bit of fishing on the side would be gorgeous. A lovely way to round up your day, you know. So and then of course you can always bring back a salmon or the trout. And if you're staying for any length of time, we will actually cure it and we will smoke it. And then we will give it to your vacuum packet and send it off to you after you send it off to you by post or whatever, depending on the timelines involved, you know. So
that's a really lovely thing to do when you're staying as well. It's just fabulous. We're so blessed, and I know already how blessed we are with the amount of beautiful places to go and stay and eat in Ireland's Blue Book and here in Cork, with so many restaurants for people who are staying in our properties. If they're out in Longville for a couple of nights, or Ballymaloe, or indeed with us, you know, they will of course dine with us. And our head chef, our executive head chef, Mark Staples, is very much in keeping with, you know, sourcing local produce, and he's all about that at the moment as he designs his menus. And the same with Joe and Killarney Royal, Joe Hurley. He's been our head chef there for 35 odd years. You know, they're really passionate about it. And I cannot list, of course, all the incredible restaurants we have in Cork. Michelin star restaurants, Ishiguichi in the city, Japanese. So that's lovely to have a you know, non-traditional style restaurant to offer guests visiting, and, you know, so many others that I will not get a chance to mention today. Well, I will say Cafe Paradiso, or Paradiso, because, you know, for vegetarians there, we've talked a lot today about the great beef and meat we have, but there's so many vegetarians coming to Cork now, and that is a hugely popular restaurant. And in fact, a reason why many people do come and stay in Cork City is thanks to Paradiso. They are an incredible restaurant, and just down the road from us at Hayfield. But unfortunately, I can't mention all the other brilliant ones as much as I would love to. But the dining scene is alive and well. So thanks to our brilliant fellow Ireland's Blue Book friends for joining us today. As always, I've already said, when I mention this collection, I just literally want to spend my time running around the country, staying and eating in all of them, and chatting to all of the fantastic owners and staff on site. I know they're the warmest, most passionate hoteliers going, and I'm looking forward to meeting them all again soon. So thank you, Shelley, or Michelle. Shelley, as we all call her affectionately, Michelle from Ireland's Blue Book, Peter from Ballymaloe, Aisling from Longville House, and wishing you continued success over the coming months as we start welcoming people back to Cork and to Ireland. So thank you out there for joining us as well today to learn more about Culinary Cork and all things Ireland's Blue Book here in Cork. Tune in next week for an Eastern surprise where we chat to our friends in East Cork's Bota Wildlife Park, Bota House and Gardens and the Jameson Distillery in Middleton. Thank you. Bye-bye.